The constant pursuit of more can quietly drain your spirit. We often measure success by promotions and possessions, only to find ourselves feeling exhausted and unfulfilled. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." What if true success was not about acquiring more, but about mastering yourself? This ancient wisdom offers a path away from the modern cycle of wanting. We are about to explore 15 Stoic lessons that provide a timeless framework for redefining success from the inside out. This philosophy shifts the focus from what you achieve to who you become, building a life of resilience and peace regardless of your circumstances. How would you describe your own deepest version of self-mastery? The first and most fundamental Stoic lesson is to relentlessly focus only on what is within your control. This single idea forms the bedrock of Stoic practice, a guiding principle that leads directly to mental tranquility. The ancient teacher Epictetus opens his Enchiridion with this very distinction, stating that some things are up to us and some things are not. Our own judgments, our impulses, our desires, and our actions are within our power. Everything else, from our reputation to our wealth to the actions of other people, is not. When you internalize this division, you stop wasting precious energy fighting battles you cannot win. Picture your reaction to a critical comment online or a sudden cancelled flight. You cannot control the words someone types or the mechanical failure that grounds the plane. But you have absolute authority over your internal response, your choice not to be insulted, and your decision to patiently rebook your travel. Worrying about the uncontrollable is like arguing with the weather, a futile effort that only leaves you frustrated and drained. Think of one situation from your past week where you felt stressed or anxious. How much of that worry was devoted to something entirely outside your command? The practice begins when you consciously redirect that attention inward to your own character and your chosen response. This is where true power resides. Have you ever noticed how two people can experience the same event and have completely different reactions? One person might see a rainy day as a gloomy inconvenience, while another finds it a perfect opportunity for a cozy afternoon indoors. The event itself is neutral. It is the story we tell ourselves about it that creates our emotional world. This is the core of the second Stoic lesson, that your perception actively shapes your reality. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly in his private writings, stating, "You are disturbed not by what happens, but by your opinion about what happens." Our minds are not blank slates passively recording events. They are interpreters constantly assigning meaning. A critical comment from a colleague is just sound waves or text on a screen until your judgment labels it as a personal critique or as constructive advice. That initial judgment, what the Stoics called an impression, is the crucial fork in the road. If you can learn to pause at that moment and question your automatic interpretation, you reclaim a profound power. Think about receiving thoughtful feedback on a project. One interpretation could be, "I am not meeting expectations," and this confirms it. This thought naturally leads to feelings of uncertainty and resistance. Another interpretation could be, "Here is specific information I can use to improve my skills." This thought leads to motivation and a plan for growth. The event did not change. The feedback itself was identical. The only thing that changed was the internal narrative, the judgment about what the event meant. This is not about positive thinking. It is about accurate thinking, stripping away the layers of exaggerated worry and personalization we often add to situations. Take a moment and recall a recent minor inconvenience. perhaps being stuck in traffic or a long line at the store. What was your immediate judgment about that situation? Did you tell yourself it was an inefficient use of your valuable time, an unexpected delay? How did that story make you feel? Now, consider how you might reassess that impression. Could it be a forced moment of pause, a chance to observe your surroundings or simply breathe? By changing the narrative, you are not changing the world, but you are changing your experience of it, and that makes all the difference. Stoics believed in periodically practicing discomfort to fortify the mind against future misfortune. This third lesson, the practice of voluntary hardship, might seem counterintuitive in a world built for convenience. Yet it is a powerful training method for the soul. The philosopher Seneca advised his friend Lucilius to set aside a certain number of days each month where he would have only the most basic food and attire. He wrote that we should learn to embrace simplicity so that we may never be ruled by the fear of not having more. The goal is not to live in hardship, but to prove to yourself that you can. By willingly stepping into a small challenge, you drain a larger one of its power to frighten you. When you choose to take a cold shower, you are not just waking up your body, you are teaching your mind that temporary physical discomfort is manageable. When you decide to walk to the store instead of driving, you are demonstrating that effort is not an enemy. These small acts are like training for the spirit, building up your resilience against the inevitable shocks of life. They also have a beautiful side effect. They reawaken your appreciation for the ordinary comforts you usually take for granted. That simple meal after a period of fasting tastes more nourishing. The warmth of your home feels more welcoming after a walk in the cool air. You begin to see your daily life not as a baseline of what you deserve, but as a collection of gifts. Think of one small comfort you could voluntarily set aside for just one day. Perhaps it is that second cup of coffee, the background noise of constant music, or the convenience of a prepared meal. The point is not to punish yourself, but to observe. Notice the initial impulse of want, and then the quiet realization that you are okay without it. What does that slight shift in your perspective reveal about your relationship to comfort and your own inner strength? Amor Fati is the Stoic art of not just accepting, but loving everything that fate brings. This mindset moves far beyond simple tolerance of hardship, inviting you to embrace every event, every obstacle, and every twist of fortune as a necessary and beneficial part of your life's path. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." He saw each circumstance, especially the difficult ones, as fuel for the inner fire of his character. This is the ultimate reframe, where a setback is no longer a roadblock but the very material you need to build a stronger self. The modern philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by these ideas, later captured the spirit of this practice in his own words. "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." This is the profound shift from resisting what is to fully affirming it. Consider a career path that takes an unexpected turn, perhaps a job transition you did not see coming. In the moment, it feels like a pure loss, a moment of uncertainty. But with the lens of amor fati, you can begin to see it not as an ending, but as a necessary redirection. That forced opening might have been the very push you needed to pursue a passion you had long ignored, or to develop a resilience you never knew you possessed. History offers countless examples of individuals who embodied this principle. Think of an inventor whose workshop was lost in a fire, only for them to rebuild and in the process discover a more efficient method of production. The obstacle, the literal fire, did not break them. It forged a new and better path forward. The event itself was neutral, but their loving acceptance of it allowed them to transform a difficult moment into innovation. Look back on your own life to a past difficulty that felt overwhelming at the time. It could have been a personal challenge, a period of uncertainty, or a disappointment. Can you identify one positive outcome, one crucial lesson, or a new strength that emerged directly from that experience? Perhaps it taught you patience, revealed who your true friends were, or simply showed you that you were far more capable of handling hardship than you ever believed. That realization is the first step toward loving your fate, not for the pain it caused, but for the person it helped you become. In Stoicism, a roadblock is not a stop sign, it is part of the route. This is the fifth lesson, a principle that reframes every difficulty you face. The obstacle is the way. What appears to be a barrier is not blocking your path, it is the path itself. Challenges do not hinder success, they forge it, demanding creativity, perseverance, and a strength you would not otherwise discover. This idea is the heart of the Stoic virtue of courage, the willingness to move forward not in the absence of fear, but because your purpose is greater than your discomfort. Marcus Aurelius, leading armies on distant frontiers, constantly reminded himself of this truth. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." A difficult person teaches you patience. A failed project reveals a flawed assumption. A physical limitation forces you to innovate. The obstacle itself provides the raw material for your progress. History is filled with individuals who lived this principle. Consider the story of Thomas Edison. When his laboratory complex was destroyed by a massive fire, he did not see an ending. He saw a clean slate. Reportedly, he told his son, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew." The fire, the ultimate obstacle, became the very reason he could rebuild his work in a more efficient and revolutionary way. His greatest setback became a stepping stone to his greatest advancements. Look at a current challenge in your own life, perhaps a professional hurdle or a personal goal that feels out of reach. Instead of viewing it as a wall, ask yourself this single question: how can this specific obstacle be used as a stepping stone? Could a disagreement improve your communication skills? Could a resource constraint spark a more creative solution? The barrier is not there to stop you. It is there to show you a new part of the route, a path you were always meant to walk. How would you live today if you knew it was your last? This powerful question lies at the heart of the sixth Stoic lesson, Memento Mori, the practice of remembering that all life has its season. Far from being a somber fixation, this reflection was considered by the Stoics as a vital tool for creating a life of purpose and urgency. The philosopher Seneca wrote in his letters, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." He was pointing to our strange tendency to live as if we have an endless amount of time, putting off our most meaningful work and connections for a future that is not guaranteed. By consciously holding the natural arc of life in your mind, you are not invited to live in fear, but to live with immense clarity. It becomes a filter that instantly separates the trivial from the essential. An argument over a minor slight loses its power. The pursuit of superficial status feels hollow. What rises to the surface are your core values, your deepest relationships, and the work that truly matters to you. This daily remembrance is the ultimate antidote to procrastination and distraction. Imagine starting each morning with a simple reminder, perhaps a small object on your desk like a stone, or even just a single word written on a note card. This is your memento mori, your personal token to bring your attention back to the present. Each evening, you might ask yourself a quiet question: did I live today in a way that I would be proud of if it were my last? This is not about judging yourself harshly, but about gently aligning your actions with your principles. What one thing would you stop doing immediately if you fully embraced the reality that your time is limited? And what one meaningful action would you finally start? This practice does not ask you to change the world in a single day, but to infuse the day you have with the weight of its own significance, making every ordinary moment feel charged with meaning and every choice an expression of your character. Stoic success is measured by your character, not the applause you receive. This seventh lesson cuts directly against the grain of a world that often feels like a constant performance for external approval. When your primary motivation shifts from seeking praise to acting with integrity, you unlock a profound sense of freedom. You are no longer pulled by the ever-changing opinions of others. Your moral compass becomes your only guide, and the right action becomes its own reward, a private victory that no one can give you and no one can take away. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a beautifully clear instruction on this point. He said, if you do the task before you always adhering to strict reason, and with zeal and energy and yet with humanity, disregarding all lesser ends and keeping the divinity within you pure and upright, as if you were even now faced with its return, if you hold to this, staying for nothing and shrinking from nothing, only seeking to act in accord with your own nature and the nature of whole, you will live fulfilled. In essence, do the right thing simply because it is the right thing, as if a wise and benevolent witness resided within you, observing every choice. Imagine you are working on a collaborative project. You have a chance to take sole credit for a breakthrough that was truly a team effort, a move that would certainly earn you praise and perhaps even a promotion. No one would ever know. Alternatively, you can ensure the entire team is recognized, knowing your own contribution might fade into the background. The Stoic path is clear. You give credit freely, not because you will be celebrated for your humility, but because honesty and fairness are expressions of your character. The internal satisfaction of knowing you acted with integrity far outweighs the fleeting buzz of unearned praise. That quiet knowledge becomes a source of unshakable confidence, a private foundation that stabilizes you amidst the noise of the world. Think back to a time you performed a small act of kindness entirely in secret. Perhaps you helped a stranger without waiting for a thank you, or you corrected a minor error that would have benefited you to leave unnoticed. Recall the feeling that followed, that quiet hum of internal satisfaction. There was no external validation, no social media post to make, no one to pat you on the back. The reward was entirely within, a confirmation that you are living in alignment with your own principles. That feeling is the true metric of Stoic success, a quiet assurance that you are building a life of substance, not just a reputation. Stoics practiced a powerful exercise, imagining life without what they valued most. This technique, known as Premeditatio Malorum or the Premeditation of Challenges, is not about fostering pessimism but about building a fortress of gratitude and resilience in the mind. By consciously visualizing our days without key relationships, our health, or our possessions, we accomplish something remarkable. We disarm the future of its ability to shock us, and we re-enchant our present with a profound sense of thankfulness. Seneca beautifully captured this mindset in a letter to his brother. He wrote, "You should live as if you were going to lose everything, remembering that it was only given to you on loan." Fortune gives you your family, your career, your home, not as a permanent possession, but as a temporary gift to be cherished while it remains. This mental rehearsal transforms your relationship with the world. The worry about your work, for instance, can create a constant background hum of anxiety. But what happens if you deliberately sit with that thought for a moment? You imagine the practical steps you would take, the support you would lean on, and the inner resources you would discover. The intimidating unknown becomes a manageable scenario you have already walked through in your mind. The sharp edge of that concern is softened, and in its place arises a quiet appreciation for the work you have today. The same practice applies to the people you hold dearest. Take a moment to picture your life without a key person, a parent, a partner, or a close friend. Notice the immediate feeling that thought creates, the sense of absence it brings. Then let that feeling guide you back to the present. That person is here now. That conversation is still possible. This exercise does not invite sorrow. It ignites a fierce and immediate gratitude for the precious, ordinary moments we so often take for granted. The warmth of a shared meal, the sound of a familiar laugh, the simple knowledge of their presence in the world. What one blessing, often overlooked, would you see with new eyes if you truly considered its absence? That fresh perspective is the quiet power of this reflective practice, turning potential future change into present, vibrant appreciation. We are quick to judge others, but Stoicism asks us to first seek understanding. This ninth lesson invites you to pause the automatic verdict your mind delivers and replace it with a question. When someone moves abruptly in traffic or speaks with sharpness, the immediate, instinctual response is often one of judgment and irritation. We label them as rude or inconsiderate. Stoic philosophy suggests that this rush to judgment is the very source of much of our daily frustration and conflict. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius offered a powerful alternative perspective in his private writings. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." His point was not to expect the worst from everyone, but to stop being surprised by behavior that stems from a lack of wisdom. When you are not surprised, you are less likely to be offended. You begin to see the actions of others not as personal attacks, but as expressions of their own internal confusion, their own limited perceptions of what is good for them. This shift does not excuse unkind behavior, but it completely changes your emotional reaction to it. Consider the scenario of a stranger who speaks abruptly to you in a store. Your initial thought might be that this person is simply unpleasant, but what if you paused that judgment and asked a single question? What might be causing this person to act this way? Perhaps they are carrying a weight of sorrow you cannot see. Maybe they just received difficult news or are in physical discomfort. They could be exhausted from a long night caring for someone dear to them. Their behavior is still not acceptable, but your understanding of its possible roots drains it of its personal sting. You are no longer the target of their frustration. You are merely a momentary bystander to their private struggle. This practice builds a profound empathy and patience, not by condoning actions, but by comprehending their source. The next time you feel that familiar surge of judgment toward someone, whether a colleague or a stranger, try to catch the thought before it solidifies. In that small space, ask yourself quietly, what unseen burden might they be carrying? This simple question can transform a moment of conflict into an opportunity for compassion, and in doing so, it grants you a peace that no judgment could ever provide. True self-mastery begins with taming your wants and fears. The 10th Stoic lesson teaches that your inner freedom is secured not by acquiring everything you wish for, but by carefully choosing what you wish for in the first place. An undisciplined want or a powerful reluctance can quietly become your master, turning you into a servant to objects, opinions, and outcomes you cannot control. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a clear and liberating definition of freedom. He said, "He is free who lives as he wishes, who cannot be forced, hindered, or constrained, whose impulses cannot be thwarted, who always gets what he desires and never falls into what he wants to avoid. This sounds like a description of a powerful leader, but Epictetus reveals the secret. This person is free because their wishes are perfectly aligned with what is within their power. They only wish for their own good character and thoughtful actions, things no outside force can ever take from them. They only avoid acting with fear or dishonesty, missteps that are entirely their own to prevent. When you crave social approval, each new like or comment holds a small piece of your contentment. When you are reluctant to feel awkward or left out, you might find yourself agreeing to things that do not align with your values just to avoid that passing unease. The wish for a newer car or a larger home can transform a peaceful mind into a constantly striving, never satisfied one. These are not just wants, they are chains you willingly fasten to your own wrists. The path to freedom is moderation, not deprivation. It is about bringing your wishes into conscious alignment with your reasoned choice, rather than being pulled along by every passing urge. Think of the automatic need to check your phone. The device itself is neutral, but the unchecked wish for a moment of novelty or social connection turns it into a source of steady distraction. Each time you reflexively reach for it, you are answering a command from a want, not acting from your own will. The practice of discipline is to create a small space between the impulse and the action. In that space, you ask a simple question: is this action serving my deeper purpose, or am I serving a temporary wish? What is one desire that you feel has an outsized influence over your daily choices? It might be the wish for comfort food when you are stressed, the wish for a shopping trip after a difficult day, or the wish to have the last word in a discussion. Now consider one small, practical step you could take to gently reduce its power over you. Perhaps it is delaying the purchase for 24 hours, taking 5 deep breaths before responding, or choosing a walk instead of a snack. This is not about winning a battle through sheer force, but about patiently retraining your attention, reminding yourself that the source of your calm was never in that object or outcome, but always within your own disciplined choice. You can lose money and regain it, but a moment lost is gone forever. This clear truth forms the 11th Stoic lesson, a principle that places time as the ultimate measure of a life well lived. While we carefully budget our finances and protect our possessions, we often let our most precious asset, the very seconds of our existence, slip through our fingers without a second thought. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote with piercing clarity on this subject in his essay on the shortness of life. He observed, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested. The problem is not the quantity of our days, but the quality of our attention within them. We act as if time were an endless resource, forever replenishing itself, when in reality it is the one thing we can never recover once it is spent. This realization is not meant to create haste, but to instill purpose, urging you to align your daily actions with what you truly value. Consider the modern habit of endless scrolling through digital feeds. Each minute you spend passively consuming fragments of other people's lives is a minute you are not actively building your own. This is not about rest, which is essential, but about unconscious leakage where time vanishes without contributing to your growth, your relationships, or your peace. Contrast that with an engaged, meaningful activity, even one that lasts the same amount of time. A 20-minute walk where you notice the sky, a 15-minute conversation with someone you care about, or 30 minutes spent learning a new skill. The same chunk of time is invested, not lost, and it pays a dividend in memory, skill, or connection. Take a quiet moment to review how you spent the last 24 hours. Trace the arc of your day from waking to sleeping. How much of that time was directed by your deliberate choice, and how much was simply a reaction to distractions or the requests of others? Identify one recurring activity that feels like a genuine drain, a habit that leaves you feeling emptier than when you began. Now, what single, more valuable pursuit could you use to replace it? It does not need to be a grand endeavor. It could be replacing 10 minutes of morning news with 10 minutes of reading, or trading a late-night video session for a few moments of reflection on the day. This small substitution is a powerful declaration that your time, and therefore your life, belongs to you. The Stoics remind us that the past is gone and the future is uncertain. Your power lies solely in the present. This 12th lesson anchors your entire practice of self-mastery to the only point in time you can ever truly inhabit. Anxiety is almost always a story about a future you are trying to control, while regret is a memory from a past you can no longer change. Both of these mental states drain your energy and attention from the one place where you can actually take meaningful action right now. Marcus Aurelius offered a simple yet profound instruction for this very challenge. He wrote, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman on doing what is in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness." He is not asking for frantic effort, but for a calm and total engagement with the single task your life has placed before you in this moment. When you are washing a dish, just wash the dish. When you are writing a report, just write the report. When you are listening to a friend, just listen. This complete absorption is the essence of presence, and it is a quiet rebellion against the fragmented nature of modern attention. Consider the common experience of eating a meal while watching a screen. Your body is nourished, but your mind is elsewhere, caught in a narrative that has nothing to do with the taste of the food or the feeling of fullness. The meal becomes a blur, a functional necessity devoid of experience. Now, imagine the same meal eaten with your full attention. You notice the textures, the subtle flavors, the simple act of chewing and swallowing. The ordinary becomes slightly extraordinary, not because the food changed, but because your awareness did. This is a practical application of Stoic mindfulness. For the next hour, commit to a small experiment. Choose one routine activity, whether it is drinking your morning beverage, walking to your car, or completing a simple work assignment. Resolve to keep your attention completely anchored to that activity. When your mind inevitably wanders to a future concern or a past conversation, gently guide it back without judgment to the sensations and actions of the present. Notice the weight of the cup in your hand, the rhythm of your footsteps, the feeling of the keys under your fingers. Observe what happens to the volume of your worries when you stop feeding them with your attention. Does the present moment feel more spacious or perhaps more real when you give it your whole self? This simple observation is the beginning of reclaiming the only time that is ever truly yours to live. Stoicism teaches that your circle of concern should extend to all of humanity. This 13th lesson invites you into a radical expansion of identity, where you see yourself not just as a citizen of a single town or nation, but as a fellow citizen of the entire world. This ancient concept of cosmopolitanism redefines your place in the universe, framing your every action as part of a vast, interconnected human community. Your duty then becomes to act for the common welfare, contributing to the whole with justice and kindness. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who governed a vast and diverse empire, frequently returned to this idea in his private reflections. He wrote, "We were born for the sake of one another. To see this is to understand that your own nature is fundamentally social, designed for cooperation and mutual support." He pictured the world as a single living organism and individual people as its various limbs. A hand does not harm the foot, for they are part of the same body, working toward a shared well-being. When you internalize this perspective, your understanding of success shifts once more. It is no longer just about your personal peace or your private victories, but about how your peace contributes to the peace of others and how your actions ripple outward to strengthen the whole. This outlook naturally fosters a deeper sense of justice because you begin to see the experiences of distant people not as separate from your own, but as challenges faced by other parts of your own extended human family. It cultivates kindness because a stranger is no longer a stranger, but a fellow citizen on the same shared journey. Think of the simple choice to hold a door open for someone whose hands are full, or to offer a genuine compliment to a tired cashier. These are not just minor courtesies, they are small, practical affirmations of our shared humanity. On a larger scale, this world, you might influence your consumption choices, prompting you to consider the environmental or social impact of the products you buy, recognizing that your personal comfort is connected to the well-being of communities across the globe. The practice begins by consciously widening your gaze. This week, identify one small, deliberate action you can take to benefit someone entirely outside your immediate circle of family and friends. It could be donating to a cause that supports people you will never meet, writing a note of encouragement to a community volunteer, or simply offering your full, patient attention to a service worker who is often overlooked. In that single act, you are not just helping another person, you are actively strengthening the bonds of the global community you call home and fulfilling the deepest purpose of your social nature. Stoicism does not ask you to not feel emotion, but to not be ruled by it. This 14th lesson draws a critical line between experiencing a feeling and being hijacked by it. Your rational mind is the calm captain of the ship, while your emotions are the powerful wind in the sails. The wind is necessary for movement, but without the captain's hand on the rudder, the ship is tossed aimlessly by the storm. The Stoic ideal is to lead with reason, allowing this guiding faculty to oversee and temper your emotional responses, ensuring your actions align with your deepest values, not your most fleeting impulses. Epictetus offered the foundational insight for this practice, stating, "People are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. The event itself does not cause your reaction. It is your unchecked interpretation of the event, fueled by raw feeling, that leads to the outburst or the regret." The space between that initial feeling and your final action is where your freedom resides. In that pause, you can choose to apply reason, to question the story your emotion is telling you, and to decide on a response you will be proud of later. Consider the surge of frustration when another driver cuts you off in traffic. The immediate, visceral reaction is one of irritation, a hot flash that demands an expression, perhaps a sharp honk or a shouted word. This is the untamed wind, but if you can create even a 2-second pause, the rational captain can step in. It can ask, is this person's action a personal insult, or are they likely distracted, rushed, or simply unaware? Will my irritated response make this situation safer or better, or will it only escalate tension and disturb my own peace? The event remains the same, but your view of it shifts from a personal offense to a simple hazard on the road. Your action then changes from a reactive honk to a calm, defensive maneuver, ensuring everyone's safety. This is not about suppressing your humanity, it is about exercising your wisdom. Think back to a recent moment where you felt a strong emotional charge, perhaps a flash of impatience with a family member or a spike of anxiety before a meeting. Recall the immediate urge that accompanied that feeling. Now, reconsider that moment with the gentle lens of reason. What if you had paused to breathe, to question the urgency of your impatience, or to reframe the meeting as a conversation rather than a judgment? How might your words or your posture have been different? That small, intentional space is where character is built, decision by decision, turning volatile reactions into thoughtful responses that you and those around you can truly trust. The final lesson is this: success is not something you get, but something you are. Every principle we have explored converges on this single, transformative truth. Shifting your focus to what you control, reframing your perceptions, embracing obstacles, and remembering what truly matters. All these practices are training for one ultimate goal: to build an unshakable inner citadel. Your wealth, your social standing, and your career milestones are external events, subject to the whims of fortune. Your character, your integrity, and your capacity for peace are internal achievements, and they form the only success that can never be taken from you. Seneca captured this beautifully when he wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, to be content with what we have, which is plenty, without being enslaved by the desire for more." The riches he speaks of are not in your bank account, but in the quality of your mind and the depth of your character. Consider the intense pursuit of a promotion. The common narrative measures success by the final outcome, the new title and the higher salary. But from a Stoic perspective, the real success happened during the process itself. It was in the mornings you chose discipline over distraction, in the moments you offered help to a struggling colleague instead of undermining them, and in the grace you showed when receiving constructive feedback. Even if the promotion goes to someone else, your success remains intact because you acted with courage, justice, and wisdom. You are left not with a feeling of absence, but with the quiet satisfaction of having lived in alignment with your principles. That internal state is the real prize, a form of success that no boardroom decision can ever grant or revoke. So now, I invite you to make this personal. Take a moment to write down your own Stoic-inspired definition of success. Let it not be a list of goals to be checked off, but a description of the person you wish to become. What character traits would define your most resilient and peaceful self? Perhaps it is to meet every challenge with patience, to lead with empathy in your relationships, to find contentment in simplicity, and to act with unwavering integrity whether anyone is watching or not. This definition becomes your internal compass, guiding you not toward a distant finish line, but toward a way of being you can embody starting this very day. These 15 lessons are not a checklist, but a single, interwoven philosophy for building a life of purpose from the inside out. They guide you to focus only on what you command, to love the path fate lays before you, and to see every obstacle as the very material for your growth. They remind you that time is your most precious currency and that your true wealth is measured by the strength of your character. This is the Stoic definition of success, an unshakable inner citadel that no external event can storm. Marcus Aurelius left us with a final, noble encouragement, stating, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, because an artful life requires being prepared to meet and withstand every unexpected and difficult event." This is not a grim duty, but a call to a more vibrant and resilient way of being. The practice begins not with a grand overhaul, but with a single, deliberate step. In the coming week, choose just one of these lessons to focus on. Perhaps you will practice pausing before you judge another, or consciously invest just 1 hour, usually lost to distraction, into something that truly matters. Share in the comments which principle resonates most deeply with you right now. If this path toward self-mastery speaks to you, subscribe for more guides on bringing practical wisdom into your daily life.